just because we were talking about it out there and I was kind of bummed. I was like, shit, we got to say it again. You just landed from Crescent Butte.
Yep.
And we were just talking about how the weather literally just turned.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was on my mountain bike. How the hell are they going to be open in X amount of days? And then what happened?
Well, yeah. So actually, was it George? Did you just say that it was 80 degrees? Like that
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday.
Yeah.
That's the day it dumped in Crested Butte. Because I was talking to a friend of mine in Boston, and he was like, it's 80 degrees here. And I'm like, we were in a full-on proper snowstorm. And so I had mountain biked the day before, Friday, and was one of my favorite trails in the entire Gunnison Valley is a bike trail on the mountain. It's in the bike park. And often I'm kind of like working late, so I just pedal up the mountain and then go ride Avery.
Yep.
And so rode Avery, and there was like no snow, zero. And I was like, Crested Butte's not opening on November 22nd. And then the next day, it probably dropped about 20 inches on the mountain and just sheer, like, full proper winter wonderland stuff.
That's
and
great.
then I was talking to somebody, and they're like, yeah, it's 80 here today. So, man, yeah, we get
But
our
it
different
flipped for you
cycles.
guys too, which is kind
Super
of wild.
flipped.
Like
Yep.
overnight almost. Like, well, no, actually literally overnight.
Yeah, literally
Which is cool.
overnight.
Oh, I do have to call this out because before we get into it, because when you text me, like, oh, I'm inside, just I'm here, I'm just whatever, like checking things out. I was like, all right. So I went down. As I went down, I like looked in the front door. I'm like, I don't see Jonathan, whatever. And then I turn around, dude, had a super fan in the store.
Kind of true. It's kind of true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You was scoping the ski wall, and some guy was like, is that really you?
Yeah,
Is that you?
That's
no.
actually exactly how it went, to be honest. No, shout out. What a cool shout out to Abe, Abe Rosenberg. I walked in and I was just looking around. I didn't see you guys there. And so I was like, cool, check out, the shop. And there was a guy, and he kind of looked and he kind of did a double take. And I just thought I first thought it was an employee. And then he kind of came over, and I was like, hey. He's like, hey. And
Still might think it's an employee.
I actually did. And I was like, hey, I'm Jonathan. He's like, I know. And
Still might think it's an employee.
we talked for like 10 minutes. He's a great guy. Abe Rosenberg,
That's
shout
awesome.
out.
Cool.
He's like, I'm a Blister member. I kind of can't believe you're here right now.
Sick.
Lives in Rhode Island, comes up to Ski Monster.
Very
like
cool.
Anytime he said, anytime I'm in a like 2-hour range of Ski Monster, I stop in.
That's awesome.
And
That's cool.
So yeah, Blister member. He's like, I used to snowboard. He's like, I started skiing 7 years ago. He's like, every piece of gear I've bought off of like reviews I've read on Blister. So it was kind of a proper, I hate to say it, but it was a proper fanboy moment. But Abe is,
It's kind of fucking cool, though,
It's
isn't
cool,
it?
man.
yeah,
It's
I
really
mean,
cool.
It's really fun. Literally walked into the shop, and that was the first conversation I had. And that, kind of brings you back to like, it's one of the things I love so much about just kind of snow sports in general, skiing or snowboarding, but like that instant connection you often can have, whether somebody knows Blister or not, but that we do this dumb thing, like slide around on snow. It's actually kind of dumb,
Yeah.
but we love it so much. And the connections that makes and brings you together off of that shared passion, it's like the best thing that's ever happened to me, like in my life,
It's cool.
And you can go to Iceland or Japan or Boston and have those kind of encounters. And I still like wildly, as fun as the act of skiing is, to have encounters like that and just have your world grow or meet up with people because of that activity is still something that
pretty rad.
I love a lot.
Pretty rad. It's a weird, like, out of body moment when it happens, because you're like, the person's like, I can't believe it's you. And you're like, what? Like, we just talk about skiing. You're like, yeah, it is me. What's up, man?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Dude, there's a lot of surreal things like that. Like when we were at the Solomon movie premiere last night, where we're standing in the back with the guys that created the movies and are in the movies.
Yeah.
And they're asking me like, yeah, George, you want another beer? And like, yeah, sure. What are you having? PBR? Yeah, great. Let me go get you one.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm like, this is How did any of this happen?
And then, so we're watching their segments, Stan and Josh, their segments in particular, and they're both on each side of us. And the first one, like, goes through, it's Stan Ray, and he does it. It does his thing. And I was like, dude, that was dope. And he's like, dude, thanks, man. And then Josh's segment happens, and Josh does some gnarly
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Gnarly. Yeah. And so, like, I literally, like, lean into him. I was like, are you okay in the fucking head? Like, are you okay? Are you mentally okay? And he was like, what? And
It's debatable. It's debatable, dude.
Well,
debatable.
like, that was, you did that. He's like, I know. I'm like, no, seriously, are you okay? He's like, I don't think I am. I literally don't think I am. I'm like, dude, you're definitely not. Because what I just watched is psychopath behavior.
Yeah.
That was insane skiing. Like, insane.
Yeah.
So it was cool to, like, have those guys there, and you're just talking to them and watching their segments at the same time while they're getting you PBRs. It was pretty rad.
Yeah.
It was pretty rad.
So you've been in some ski factories, haven't you?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, we were. I was just talking to Tor Verdonk, who you talk to all the time, and he's like, "Dude, I was, when we had Ellsworth over here, he's super into like some of the numbers and getting into the nitty gritty of like how something works and like, yeah, dude, he's like, I can't remember. He probably remembers. So yeah, honestly, I'd ask him. I can't remember. So where have you been?
Okay, well, first of all, we should talk about that day with Tor. So we were in Montebelluna, Italy, at the Rosino Lang factory, and Tor and I got into a proper like kind of yelling match.
Nice.
Okay.
And I think I've told this story, but like I really love Tor. I like that, as crotchety and crusty as that dude is. He's kind of one of my favorite people in the ski industry. But we were talking about he was showing us the kind of R&D, center of the Lang Rossi factory.
Now, was that the first boot facility you'd been to? Was that the first taste?
That was the very first. I've been in a lot of ski. I've been in a lot of ski factories. That was the first boot factory.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but boot factories are way cooler.
I think they are too.
Boot factories they're just actually breweries. Like I've been into a lot of breweries and distilleries, but like you walk in and that's what a boot factory looks like, right?
Yeah.
Where you have all these tiny little particles of plastic.
Oh, totally.
And you're
Yeah.
combining it together. It's like y'all are just brewing beer here, except they're ski boots.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my first trip to a boot factory was with Tor, and we started kind of yelling at each other because he is convinced that there is no way to appropriately, properly, let's say, standardize ski boot flex.
This is interesting. I've been talking to Tor and Manzer and Corpy a lot about this topic lately.
And my quick take on this is, I think it's extremely complicated. I'm not at all willing to say sort of impossible, right? And Tor, at least in the moment, maybe his opinion has changed on this, but he was just like, I don't even see why you're going down this road. Like, you're not going to get there. And I was like, dude, what are you afraid of? Like, you're just shutting down inquiry. We have a $65 million engineering facility down in Western Colorado University's campus. We have some of the top people in robotics and AI and all walks of engineering faculty. Like, I'm just not at all willing to say like, oh, this is an absolutely insurmountable problem. That said, this is not some rinky dink, like, get a ball of yarn and like do some like janky home project and then claim you've like created objective, tests that people can actually count on. I think there's a ton of variables. I think we need to go slow and do it the right way. I don't think it will be simple. I don't think it's some sort of like, oh yeah, we just set up this test and turns out the first go, we nailed it. Like that, I don't believe any of that, but I don't believe that we either have the world we're currently living in or with no better way to help people sort of understand what's happening on this very murky world of ski boot flex.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunately just marketing. So, we started off 1 through 10. Yep. You have Speed Machine, Nordica with the Speed Machine, like, you know what? Fuck it. Goes to 10. We're going to go 12, 14. You know what? Those numbers are kind of lame. Let's put a fucking 0 behind it.
Yeah.
And then everyone follows suit. And then people understand that no one's communicated with anybody how they came up with any of these numbers.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes marketing numbers, and there's more options than there really should be. And there's more options than there should be because the ski shop feels like they need these price points for whatever their respective customer is. The brand doesn't want to miss out on any sales. So they're willing to offer all of these options. And then the brands realize, you know what? People are seeing value in Flex Index. You know what? I can offer a 95 for 85 pricing. People feel like they're getting something, even though they're not. And they get hung up on these stupid numbers that mean nothing. It doesn't mean anything within any brand. It's comparable just within a line. And it is insane. Like, I'm sure you've seen some of this stuff too, and probably have to keep some names out of it, but there are so many 130 flex boosts that flex softer than 110s. And I mean, I've felt that way when I've been in some of these boots, but it was pretty cool to actually see the data and be like, I'm not fucking crazy. Thank fucking God. Because there are some of these boots where I'm in them, we're testing them like, I can't buy a fucking turn to save my life. I can't get these skis to do what I know they can do. And I'm not off today. Something is wrong here. And then I look at that fucking thing and I'm like, ha, that's it. That's why.
The data is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And what's funny to me is because, you know, we collectively all lived through like the flex of, you know, 1 through 10, you know, like even the initial Speed Machine 8, 10, Speed Machine 12, right?
Well, that was also kind of funny with it too, is there wasn't even that many options within 10. It started at 8 and then went to 10.
Right. No,
there's nothing below that.
Nothing below that. But like how they got everyone to transition to like thinking a 130 is like the whatever that number means, right? That 130 number is the max consumer flex. Like, and how easily people just were like, oh yeah, I need a 130. You're like, that doesn't even exist. They just made it up.
Well, it's all made up. Yeah.
It's wild.
And then what else is, I'm actually pretty happy to be talking about this because I am going to make like a regular video on it, but this is like a good draft for me to
get it out. Just get it all out.
You have, it ends up getting associated with ability more than it should because you have the never evers. They've never skied out there before. You're about to go balance on fucking snow on an uneven surface. That's slippery with these 5-foot fucking things attached to your feet, at least, right? The likelihood of your weight being in the wrong spot is very high. If you're in a responsive boot, the skis are going to take you for a ride. So being in something soft makes sense. You have that end of the spectrum. Then you have the ski racing end of the spectrum where everything is stiff because it really has to be, and that makes them faster and they get the response and they can actually keep stuff stable. Then it's assumed that everything in between is associated with ability. But when in fact, once you've figured out how to balance on a pair of skis, you would benefit from being in something stiffer so you can actually get energy transmission to the skis. You'd actually feel more efficient out there. And then there's this other bullshit of like fucking, oh, I don't want to be in a stiff boot. That's going to be too much work. Like, no, if you're in something too soft, you're moving way more than you need to get the skis to do something. You're actually working your ass off and maybe doing some fucked up technique in order to get the skis to do something because you don't have enough fucking boot. There's my fucking rant.
I like it. I like it.
So
draft one.
From your point of view, where you're working with customers all the time, they're trying boots on in the shop. I think I know where this answer is. So
get rid of Flex Index.
Well, no. What I want to know is, do you spend more of your time trying to get people to go with a softer boot or a stiffer boot?
So fortunately, we don't have much of that problem here in Boston. A lot of the people come in here, they're really pretty intelligent. They can pick up on some stuff. And you say, basically, ski boots job, great if it fits your foot. Its purpose is to make a ski bend. Stiffer boots are going to do a more effective job of that. And then they're basically getting into something stiffer. They're not selling themselves short. And also, you know, the starting price point that we have is higher than an average store. We don't start at the very bottom of the barrel. like a lot of stores do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start pretty high up in that spectrum of boots.
But there's not a lot of convincing. Convincing would be a strong word. They have a willingness to be educated and learn, and then it makes sense to them. What are your everyday alpine boots?
Really the last couple years I've spent far and away the most time between a Atomic Hawks Ultra 130 with a, let me do that again. No, my bad. The number one boot, probably thinking about the last like 2 seasons, is the Atomic Redster Club Sport 130. I love that boot. I prefer that boot with its stock liner, not going into the professional foam mimic liner. The Club Sport 130, it's probably the best fit I've ever gotten for my foot, right? It's my foot, and if you're listening to this, we don't have the same feet.
What was you were in Raptors before that?
I love that boot. Yep.
Yeah.
And before that, and that was always fun because for years, like, Matt Manzer has been on a lot of our Gear 30 podcasts, and I would just talk about how fucking good the head Raptor was, and he would just sit there and kind of fume. But that Raptor, first of all, it's the best ski boot color in my opinion. The best ski boot color is white.
I mean, that Raptor boot looks dope.
It looks sick.
So you should be really invited to any Solomon focus group because the French would love that.
They would.
Yeah. But that Raptor, so here's the thing. That Raptor, when it had that kind of D-ring booster on it, which they've moved away from, that sort of D-ringed booster strap came stock. Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorite ski boots of all time.
Did that one have the spine buckles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And frankly, the spine buckles, that's not why it was that part.
No, I'm just trying to picture it in my head.
That's the boot. Yeah. And I feel like with that Raptor, the current Raptor, and I've talked about this, it has gone a bit higher volume, not like wildly different, but a bit different. And again, that might work way better for way more people out there. But for my particular feet, that even if it was a subtle change, it opened up things enough where now that Club Sport 130 is the better fit for me.
Yeah.
So, but I can do that boot with its stock liner, or I'm having a lot of success with that Atomic Hawks Ultra 130 with the professional foam liner.
Okay.
So I love the foam liner in the Hawks Ultra. I don't need the foam liner in the Club Sport 130 because I do feel like at that point it actually stiffens up that boot more than I want it to.
Interesting.
That's my.
Well, yeah, and that Club Sport would be lower volume than that Ultra Professional.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my current, but that is, as you guys know, that is one of the hardest things about doing ski boot reviews because it's like, well, by definition, your foot shape is going to prefer one or two boots out there among all the rest.
Sure.
And so to still come back and try to provide that meaningful feedback to help everybody else figure out, where they might be going. And this is why every single one of our boot reviews is like, you might love the sound of this. Go into the best ski boot fitter you can find and go talk with them and try some stuff on. Don't fall in love with a ski boot just from reading this review, right? Like every one of our boot reviews starts that way. Get into a shop.
Yeah.
It's just educating the person that's reading it.
Yeah.
Really. And that's the most important thing. And that's what you do, which is great, I want to get back to Blister real quick here. So, because that's why you're here.
I'm here to hang out.
That too. But I want to talk about Blister Summit because we've heard a lot of awesome things about it, and it seems to be growing. More people seem to be going, which is awesome. But before that, I mean, we've talked in the past before, and you know us as Ski Monster, and we know you as Jonathan from Blister. But what I don't know, and a lot of people that are listening probably don't, like when did you have the epiphany moment in your life where you're like, you know what, I'm going to start Blister, or whatever that may have been called before that, and this is why I'm going to start it. Kind of walk us through that thought process and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, It's kind of a weird story, but
Love
in a
it.
lot
Love
of
weird
ways, I'm like, no, this actually checks out and makes a lot of sense. So I grew up in Chicago, in the Chicago area. As I tell people, I cared about two things and only two things, and it was football and basketball. That was it.
Nice.
Not really a third thing. And so all my time and energy went into, playing those sports and was looking at a college career or going to college to play football. Had an injury that basically that ended those
aspirations,
that path pretty starkly. But then fast forward and this is sort of the punchline. I didn't really start skiing till, I skied a bit. First time skiing ever, my junior year in high school. Went one day. Definitely skied in jeans.
Sick.
Had no idea what I was doing.
Starter jacket.
I don't remember the jacket.
Chicago Bulls starter jacket. Probably.
I do remember the jeans though. And so that was day one. My second day on skis was my senior year of high school. In some, I don't remember. I think it was at some tiny hill in like Wisconsin or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, so was a good athlete, but mainstream sports, football, basketball, right? And I ran track. And then I skied a bit, maybe 5-6 days a year as an undergrad. Some friends of mine that I met in college, one of my buddies was like, my folks have a place in Summit County. We start going out there. I still have no idea what I'm doing at all, with any of this stuff. Then I moved to northern New Mexico in 2002. And that is when I really had my first kind of real, what I kind of call, again, nothing wrong with skiing 4 or 5 days a year. That's great. It's what most people do, right?
Yeah.
But that year, winter 2002, that I maybe did 25, 30 days that year. But that's when I really fell in love with skiing. And then very quickly, I think the next year I was probably at the 80 to 100 days a year. And then it's been kind of 100+ days a year since then. But in those days, I knew that being in the right ski boots on the right skis would certainly help me progress as a skier, probably help me enjoy skiing more. And I have to say, I was kind of shocked at how bad I thought product reviews were about all of this really expensive equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how the industry worked. I didn't come from the industry at all. I went from football, basketball player to philosophy graduate student to philosophy professor. And my first college professorship or teaching gig at a college, I was 26. Mm-hmm. I thought I was going to be a philosophy professor the rest of my life. And anyway, so that was kind of the background. I was also then in New Mexico as a personal trainer because that had been part of, so I'm like this weird, I'm in New Mexico. I'm a personal trainer. I'm training the governor of New Mexico.
No way.
I'm still,
sick.
I'm still publishing philosophy books, talking at philosophy conferences, but now I ski 100 days a year.
Yeah.
And as I'm looking at gear, or I'd read some stuff that I saw in a magazine or on a forum, and then I'd be so psyched to get the ski. And then I'm like, this shit doesn't do anything like what the magazine said it would do, or yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, what's going on here? And as I finally learned more about how so much of the outdoor gear review media landscape works, right? Where it tends to be a lot of pay to play stuff. That actually legitimately kind of scandalized me because I'm this dude that's new to these communities of skiing and mountain biking and climbing. And I'm like, wait, so the papers of record are just kind of lying to all of us about what this gear does or doesn't do?
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I was like, that's super fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was like, all right, I was a very good writer. That was kind of my background, like academic philosophy. Like they maybe don't teach you how to write beautifully, but like that's all you do at like the highest levels of academic philosophy is like every word better be right, or we're gonna tear your head off.
Yeah,
that's how that game works, right? And I was like, I don't know. What if we just actually start testing product a lot put a lot of days on a ski or in a ski boot or on a mountain bike or snowboard? We write really in depth about the experience across a broad range of conditions and just go in depth and try to answer what I think are the questions that real actual skiers, mountain bikers, snowboarders have if you're going to go drop $800, $1,000 on a new ski or way more than that on a mountain bike. Mm-hmm. What if we just do that and we just tell the truth and this has been a kicker, we don't take any advertising money from any of the gear manufacturers we review. Mm-hmm. That was the question. It literally was an experiment. I didn't know the answers.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say it the way that you just did, because similarly, when him and I first got into like working in a ski shop and reading the magazine reviews, reading the little blurbs from all the manufacturers, we had a similar thought. We're like,
well, it was amazing how
being very honest, and it's like every single ski can't be good at every single thing. Right. It's impossible.
That's right.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to each one, and it was very copy and pasted from everybody, including to other retailers out there, just copying and pasting from the manufacturer. And SEO wise, they didn't have like a negative impact from it, so they could get away with it.
Yeah.
But we saw an opportunity. Well, what if we were just honest?
Yeah.
And I mean, it resonated for us. It clearly resonated for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really feel like right now there is, in media and all, not just in ski, but in everything, people are a little more fed up with not having enough honesty, and are really
totally
the more honest outlets are really rising to the top.
That's right.
Well, that, and from a ski manufacturer side of things, like what we see now from ski manufacturers and how they talk about the products that are coming out compared to 15 years ago when we were reading like the blurbs on, Rosinol.com or Atomic.com or whatever. I'm not just singling those brands out, just any brand.
Any brand.
And now you read it and it's like the more honest, they're so more honest about what the new ski or boot or whatever they're talking about can and cannot do.
Yeah.
Before it would be like, this is our new ski. It can do everything.
That's right.
And
well, I mean, that was
crazy.
That was like the birth of all mountain though. Like if you had basically race skis, and we're saying that this is way more versatile than a race ski is, which
True.
It is, but we're going to say it can do fucking everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Equally well.
And
equally
it sold a lot of fucking skis.
Yeah.
And then it took a long time it's pretty recent that like all those manufacturers really had their families, divided, because it was, we had race, we had park, and we had this goofy all mountain thing. Now you have, distinctive families. I mean, like, I guess to pick on Atomic again, you have your Redster skis, you have Maverick, you have Bent, then there's Maven, obviously, Backland.
Yep.
What am I missing?
I mean, dude,
and
it's Atomic. There's 30. You're missing like 30 other.
Yeah, seriously. But you get the gist. Like everyone has. This is the category of ski. This is our family that's going to be good at X. And before it was like, this is their ski. This is all you need. Yeah. It's the only thing you need. And it was even funnier back then too. And you guys can feel free to jump in because I know we all felt it. But when ski started to get wider, in those early.
That pendulum is swung hard.
Right? So when skis started to get super wide, and then you'd get a blurb from a manufacturer or a sales rep or whomever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you could still carve around this thing. This thing is great. Yeah, you could." I was at I was arcing turns, and you're like, then you get on the thing, and you're like, "I think I'm gonna die."
Yeah,
this is a 2x6.
Yeah,
like I can't turn this thing, And but there was no literature or no one saying that this is good at this and not good at that,
or that it's okay that it's not good at that.
Okay.
It wasn't.
It's totally okay.
It's fine.
So
it's okay.
And now it's so different. And I think with people that were honest then and now, it's made a huge shift in how they talk about their product.
Yeah, it
really does. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the things I am really proud of with so it's wild to me. Like, so Blister turns 13 years old this January.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
And, you know, I think probably like a lot of folks, like we're always kind of working on the next. And so in a way, like life still very much feels like it's a startup because you guys can, I imagine, relate to this a bit, but like, you're always like, what's the next thing we're doing here? And what would be the cool thing to do or a good opportunity and so, but just reflecting on that, kind of over those 13 years, that basically, it really truly was the premise. It's kind of this question: what happens if we just tell the truth to the best of our ability? We actually spend enough time testing this stuff. And that's another big one for me at the time. And it's still practiced in a lot of places today. It's like this notion of the 3-day ski review. Like, well, why the fuck?
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't work.
But also,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I was saying it 13 years ago. I'll still say it today. Like, first of all, if it's really about helping your fellow skiers, snowboarders, mountain bikers get on product that is going to help them go have maybe some of the best days of their lives out in the mountains, what the fuck are we doing only testing gear 3 days a year? What are we doing?
Well, that's crazy. But just because, like you know an editor at a magazine, or you did whatever ski racing wise, or you did Corbett's at whatever age, doesn't mean you understand nuances between things.
Yeah.
You can't tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi, whatever. Like, you can't, you're in trouble. Like, it really is. And we've talked about this before. I think on the last podcast we did with you, it is really hard to say what some of those differences are and to be able to articulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there is enough second guessing yourself. Let me go back and forth between these two and understand how these things compare. Because for us, that's really kind of how it falls into. Our job is to understand a customer's priorities and get them into the best tool for the job.
Yep.
And there is no advantage to us at all to sell them something that isn't going to line up with us. If we do our job, listen to them, and understand the products that we're selling, they're going to have a great time. We exceeded expectations. They tell a bunch of people, and that's how this whole thing works.
And it's good for the sport. Like, it keeps people, so sorry to interject, but like, we still currently have a terrible number of people who go and try skiing for the first time and then don't come back. Mm-hmm. And I still think this has a lot to do with people getting out there on some of the shittiest rental gear that the best skiers, the people who would be in the most experienced position to be able to actually handle that gear, you wouldn't be caught dead in that, because you'd be like what you were saying about a ski boot that is the wrong flex. Like, you can't do your thing. It's actually terrifying. Yeah. So I always say this is like, it's like we're trying to be like, hey, you've never driven a car? It's really fun. You should try. We're going to give you the car that doesn't have power steering. Yeah. Why would we do that to people?
I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. We talk about this internally all the time, and I'm sure you talk about it too because you just brought it up. But like, if we were to go skiing for a day, like, and you walk into Loon, for example, and you walk into Loon's rental shop as a level skier at say we are, you get a boot that they size you up for, and you get a ski that they size you up for. You don't give them any other information. You take a couple runs, you'd be like, I'm terrified. I am terrified with what's going on right now. And never mind that, you combine that with maybe they're with a group of people who are giving them bad information, or it's a horrible weather day. And you have like a triple threat, and they're like, why the fuck do people go skiing? This is horrible. And you set people out to have this awful time in what should be one of the best days of the winter for them, and they don't ever want to go again. And, we're at fault. The industry is at fault for doing that. Part of it. We're part of the trio of fault.
There's roles to be played all around. We need great ski shops that people are going to walk into. And exactly as you said, George, like, our job here today is just to help you figure out what you need and what you can do with your budget, and then go have, God bless you, the best possible time out there on the mountain. That's it. And I think from a media point of view, we play our role. Shops play a critical role. The manufacturers, I think, they have their own economic pressures and all the rest, but like everybody's got a role in this. And I think the fact is, I think the gear just is such an important part of the entire experience of, let's say, just skiing and riding. There's not a way to really get around that, And so we got to get this part right for people to help them actually go have a great time.
Yeah. I mean, like one of our biggest things, like here, point of purchase, and we talk to consumers directly, right? And you get someone, you go through the whole spiel and they say, all right, well, which one's which one's the best, or which one's better, or which one's, and you're always like, look, like nothing's like better or worse.
Yep.
Like it's just different. It's just how it feels.
Right.
Right. It's just how it's going to feel. And then they're like, which one would you pick? And it's like, well, it's not me. Right. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to guide you into like the best decision so you have the best possible time on the mountain.
Yeah.
That's what I want. If you don't have fun, then like I'm the one that fucked up. Because you're talking to me. I'm trying to steer you the right direction.
So one thing, like I'd also, and you test enough stuff so I'm assuming you fully get this, but there are wrong answers in reviews. Like just because you wrote a review does not mean you're right.
That's correct.
And there are plenty of people out there that write reviews, and that doesn't mean that that's their take. Like, yo, bro, you're fucking wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Garrett and I were just talking about this example, but the Maverick 95 grips better and carves better than the Bent 90.
Yeah.
That's objective. Mm-hmm. Garrett likes the Bent 90 better than the Maverick 95 because he likes something more playful and surfy feeling.
Sure.
I like the Maverick 95 better because of this. We can like different
that's
skis.
Right. That's right.
But we can like, the preferences are subjective, and we can guide people because the performance of the skis is objective.
Yep.
And that's kind of how they get placed. And that's what our jobs are as reviewers.
Yeah.
And again, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not I mean, like you're essentially articulating, not just like, you're kind of articulating feelings. Like I'm feeling this, and you need other proper things to do that job too.
Well, that, but also like you're trying to articulate something that you're experiencing based on what your background is too, which you can't get across in that review. It's like Garrett grew up skiing in the park, awesome freestyle skier. Obviously the way that he skis, the way he wants skis to feel, not as good as your brother, but the way that he wants skis to feel is more of like a Bent 90, Bent 100.
Totally.
George, racer background, can carve one of the nicer turns I've seen, right? And it's like he wants a ski to feel high edge angle, grippy, powerful, snappy. So he's obviously going to be like, wow, this Maverick 95, Maverick 88 feels really good. But you don't, it's hard to say that in the review because like that's just your life experience. So you're going to say like, you try your best to do that, right? But like it's always going to come out a little different. Like for example, like going back to what you said, like just 2 days or 3 days or whatever on top of your experience as a tester doesn't work, right? Because like for me, the Maverick 95 is one of my favorite skis. I think it's great. It's super fun, right? If I'm going to ski it wherever all the time, I love that ski.
Boy, Atomic's getting a lot of love in this thing.
I know. Mander's going to like this.
Should I say I
gonna
don't
like
like
this.
the map? I'm not. We're about to get into the weight question, which we don't need to do. But I would say the Maverick 95, it's not my personal favorite ski.
It's not like my number one, but if someone's like, you have to ski the 95 every day, I'd be like, sure, no problem. I like this ski a lot. The reason I'm saying that is because the first couple times we skied that, they were prototypes and there were different ones. I'm like, man, they're onto something. This is really good. When we got the first consumer version, the retail version, the first 2 times I skied it, the conditions were really shitty. I maybe was in a bad mood. I don't know. And I'm like, man, the prototypes we skied were way better. Way better.
Yep.
And then the 4th and 5th time I skied it, I was like, this is not what I remember.
Yep.
And so like, if you're basing it just off those 2 days, then I'm writing a review saying, I don't like this ski. They fucked up the prototype.
You know what else is crazy about so I've been enough magazine tests. I'm sure you can guess what they're like. There's a lot of fucking drinking. And you're testing all these things hungover as fuck. So these are the best skis that we were on when we were hungover. And the ones that got the best reviews are the ones that we wrote about when we were depending on where we were on our alcohol journey over that fucking trip.
I just honestly, like, this is the shit I hated. I'll put it this way. I hated what I saw going on in the ski industry so much that I changed the entire course of my life and started this company, and I'm probably still averaging about 90+ hour work weeks over the last 13 years.
Yeah.
That's how much I hated all of this. I just was like, I'm sorry, but I'm like, fuck you. Like, I felt like we'll keep it the ski industry. The ski industry was kind of on this little party island, and everybody was having a real good time. The media outlets, the manufacturers, and we're just all having the party, and we're getting hammered, and we're going skiing with friends, and they're posting about the fun, drunken parties. Fuck you. Like, what does that do for every consumer out there who's actually paying MSRP for shit and keeping the whole industry afloat? That's what you're doing? That's the respect you're showing to them? Fuck you. And like, I still feel that way 13 years later, but back to your question of like, why did I start Blister? It was shit like that. It's exactly the shit you're talking about. And it's still going on today. It's still going on today. And it's just not how we operate. And people might be into that, or they can be not into it, but it's what we do.
Well, I also think people are more aware of it now. More so than it was 13 years ago. You know, I know I am, I mean, because I just work in the ski business, but especially a lot of people, let's say like, let's just say 10 years ago, a lot of people just came in with, you know, back in the day, they'd have a magazine, you know, and they're like, this is what what they said is the best. And now I think they're open to more ideas from different places.
Yeah.
I think the consumers are a little bit more educated on what's good and what's bad and why. And I think, you know, outlets like Blister for sure has helped that education of the consumer, which is great.
By the way, we were talking about the, you know, best ski or whatever, and Solomon just put out, I didn't know they were doing it, but I think it just dropped this past week. They were talking about the Echo, the Echo 106.
Yeah.
And it was funny. They were like, yeah, you know, they had several of their athletes, including Cody Townsend, talking about it. And they're like, yeah, look, you know, the Echo just won this award from this magazine, won the award from this magazine. And then they were like, Blister doesn't do awards, so just go read their review. That's like what the post was, right? And I kind of laughed when I saw it. But back to your point, like, that is kind of our philosophy. Like, you can ask me, you did, what boot am I in the most?
Yeah.
So sure, that's for me, my current favorite boot. Why the fuck do you care? Unless you have my feet or you're me, right? And so we've moved away. The whole thing with Blister is try to evaluate what was happening when it came to trying to help people just get the best consumer product information out there. What is currently happening in the review landscape, and let's not do any of the things that we think are stupid or misleading.
Yep.
And that's just kind of what we've done. But I thought it was funny. I think that's the first time I've ever seen a company be like, we won this award and that award, but Blister doesn't do awards, so just go read their review.
Oh, it's great.
Just go read what they say about it. There's no medal hanging on the
No, there
picture,
isn't.
but just read what they say.
And I actually really like that ski. I skied. I was on that. I was thinking about it. I was like, I did every touring day. I was in Alaska in April. Once I got back from Alaska, the Echo was the only ski I toured on into June. And anyway, I probably need to update like what I've written about that ski on the site. But anyway, yeah.
It's funny.
You know, one thing I talking about doing right by the customer, I think I just want to come back to a flex index thing real quick.
Yeah.
So if someone was like, you know, this is the flex index, what flex is appropriate for me? The question can't be answered because it's not standardized, right? And if it was standardized, we'd have an appropriate answer for that question. With the amount of monkeying around that brands have done with dealing with numbers that people put so much value on, it is such a depends like fucking thing. And I'm irritated that people get nervous about certain numbers going in either direction when it doesn't have to do with the value. They're getting too hung up on these numbers that mean nothing.
Yep.
And it either has to be standardized or it has to go away.
And it's not going to go away, right? It's not like
I don't think it's going to go away. I mean, I agree
or,
with
It's
you.
ingrained.
what would this is a fun.
They're going to
I
have.
like
They're going to
this.
come up with some kind of way to measure.
I mean,
it.
like, look, t-shirts. It's like small, medium, large, extra
Oh,
large,
God.
double X. Do you want to go to that world? Like Happy Meals.
But even that's not standardized.
Well, it's not standardized. It's not.
Even-
but there's like there's a level of vagueness that we accept in other walks of life.
Yeah.
T-shirts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a small, medium, large? Like, and then often buying a damn shirt, you're like, well, am I a medium? Am I a large? Like, is it a
and even shoes, like a size 9 in a Yeezy and a size 9 in a Dunk is they fit different, right? And it's the same size.
And then honestly, like, you know, people want price points. Certain ski shops want price points, and that's, I mean, if there wasn't Flex Index, I don't even know what price points would look like. You know,
Yeah,
that'd be a little funky.
yeah, that would be a little funky.
and funky meaning like damaging? Do you think damaging?
Well, no, because that's where they set their.
No, I know,
product,
I
right,
know.
right? So it's like,
let's say that went away.
If they went away, it would really just become more fashion, right? Because if white was in that year,
Oh, then
It always
I
should
guess-
be.
right, as
every
single year it should be.
every single
And so there's
year.
a white boot that has, you know, the same flex index as the blue boot or whatever, but the white one's $300 more. People might still buy the one that's $300 more, even though they're the same thing. And there's no standardization, there's no
That- you
flex
think that
because
would
of fashion.
work? You
Yes.
think
Well,
that
so
would work?
Yes, I do.
pre 1997 though, so Nordica started putting, I think I'm saying this right. They started putting. Do you remember the gray stickers on the inside of the cuff of old Nordica boots?
No.
Before Flex Index started making its way into the model names of boots.
If you saw a picture, you would be like, yes.
Oh,
it
you'd
was like a
recognize it.
shiny.
It
was
looked
like
like the
shiny,
bar, like
rectangle.
the AT&T bars on the side here.
It did actually look like
Sorry
that.
if you're Verizon. You're not Sprint, are you?
No. The AT&T bars. All right.
That's a good. I never thought of that. Yeah, it
But-
does look like that.
You know, like, I mean, I was just how old are you?
49.
49. So I'm 39. But how I wasn't, my parents were buying me stuff in the mid 90s. But pre that, I mean, I would assume that just as you got more expensive, it was assumed it was more performance oriented.
Uh-huh.
Since we didn't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
this Flex
yeah.
Index
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you got a nicer liner.
Yeah.
But I mean, there also wasn't many ski options back then
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Well, okay. I want to just come back to the, like, let's say this is where some boot manufacturers are going to probably want to turn this part of the conversation off. Maybe they're not going to like this.
Fuck
They're
yeah.
not listening.
But let's say, I mean, if Flex started to have zero effect on price, that means kind of all ski boots just are would ski boot pricing move to the higher end of the price spectrum or to the lower end to make it a sustainable?
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? Because really, I mean, you've been to those boot factories. It basically costs just as much to make that $4.99 boot as it does the
Yep.
$7.99 boot.
Yep. Until you start getting into maybe whatever you're doing with liners, yada
Right.
yada,
And then some
or
richness and
yeah. slightly different buckles and finishes. But
yeah.
so what do you think? I mean, if we were like the, you know, if we got to be, you know, the I don't know, the czars of the ski industry,
it.
and we're like, as of today, we are doing away with any stated flex numbers that will no longer have any bearing on the prices of ski boots. I think the answer, I think every actual boot manufacturer listening to this would be screaming, you'd have to move to the higher end. And the reason I suppose they'd say that is because I hear a lot, maybe you guys hear more, skis should cost more than they do. Boots should cost more than they do.
Definitely.
Did you not feel that way after you were at the factories? Like, isn't it crazy that we're so lucky to get this stuff for the cost that we do?
Yeah,
That was my first takeaway after, like, the very first ski factory I ever went to. As I left this factory, I'm like, I can't believe this stuff is this cheap.
yeah.
I can't believe it.
And part of the complaints that I hear a lot are that the prices of gear in snow sports, it's just it's sort of an artificially repressed price. And I don't quite know exactly why that is when we're seeing the price of everything else in the world.
Right.
Like houses now cost twice as much as they did 3 years ago. Skis don't cost.
Cheerios are like $9.
Skis don't cost twice as much.
And the ski industry definitely fucked up with not raising prices slowly over the years like everybody else. And then it was just like, okay, now push comes to shove, we actually have to raise. And then it, went up, and that raised these alarm bells. But those manufacturers were taking a hit for everybody for a long time.
Yeah. The Griffin is the biggest thing. That was at $229
for a long time.
Way too long.
Huh.
Way too long.
$229, man.
That's what it was priced at for the majority of its existence.
Well, it's $269 now. It really didn't go up that much.
Yeah.
Right. It's still a really good deal. But I'm saying like that should have been incrementally going up. Because the version of the original Griffin and the version that we have now, very different bindings.
But to go off what you just said, it is kind of funny how like in other things we accept that it's okay for price to go up, but for some reason in ski, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's either the manufacturers are correct. If we raise prices, we will not sell this stuff, or they are falsely fearful and they just should raise rates, or it's got to be the whole collective, because if one or two start trying to raise and other companies are staying at repressed levels. Right. So I don't know sort of how this goes.
I also think there's a lot of pushback from a lot of retailers that are racing to the bottom. Like not everyone has
the race to the bottom.
Not everyone shares the same sentiment as we do right now. So
they don't care about the customer having a good time or anything.
No.
Right.
They're just trying to survive and get by.
So they're just going after the lowest common denominator, and they get a lot of that feedback from these buying groups, right? So the manufacturer getting that from these massive buying groups, and they're always looking for, hey, we need these price points on the lower end. This is why, and we're literally like, the things need to cost more money, and they need to be better so people have a better experience. Yeah. So it's just they're getting it from both sides more so than the other side.
Yeah, experience always wins.
For us, yeah. Yeah, I don't think everyone sees that, but
they don't see it that way. But if you have a good experience, you're going to have a good fucking time.
Oh, 100%.
So,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about, before we go way over time here, I want to talk about Blister Summit because.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all.
We were supposed to be talking about that like 45 minutes ago.
Come on, we're just hanging out, talking about whatever. But I do want to get to Blister Summit because it's important.
And then we'll get back into the weird shit.
we can do a weird shit.
No. Keep it going.
No, I just because it's important. It's a new, and I'll let you obviously do the talking. So those who are listening that don't understand what Blister Summit is, Jonathan's going to explain that. But basically, George and I have both been a part of ski tests before, both at Powder, Free Skier. We've been a lot of cool places to test skis, and we've seen kind of how the sausage is made at those magazines and how they do it, which has been a really great experience. I mean, it's been fantastic, and we still do it. Yeah. But what you've done is created a new type of test that's obviously a little bit different than other magazines that they've done it in the past. So why don't you just explain a little bit like what Blister Summit is and how it's going?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, like the Summit is not Blister's ski test or snowboard test. As we've said, basically every day there is snow on the ground, we normally have several of our people on snow all year long, or we're in Alaska, or we're in the Southern Hemisphere. Like somebody at Blister is probably on snow testing something probably 10 months of the year. And so that is how we do stuff. We've talked about that. But for the Summit, really what the idea for the Summit was to be very honest, because I've been not very honest so far. No,
honesty is the worst policy. That's
nobody ever is like, you should be more honest. Everybody in my life is like, maybe less.
Scale back a little bit.
Maybe less. We do all right. But years ago, going to the big old annual trade show for, the ski industry, just kind of walking around and, again, coming back, I was an absolute outsider coming into any of this stuff, like that's my own background and story. And I don't know, I just kind of always thought it was interesting that, like, again, another kind of party, and they're great. It's great to catch up with everybody and you establish, friendships and, people you really like in the industry. It's great to see them. There's value in those trade shows, whatever. But I was like, the only people not in this room right now is literally the whole world, again, who pays MSRP for stuff.
Right.
And I always just thought, well, what if we had an event where we invite all the brands to come, invite our friends, people we know, pro athletes, whatever, to come, and then invite the public, like the fucking heart of the whole sport, and let people come in and let them get on all the new for next year stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll bring companies in. You can come, you can go ski with Hoji or Cody or me or Luke or whoever you want to, and we'll go test stuff. And so what we call the summit is actually kind of the world's first consumer-focused ski test, right? In that it's blister readers, it's passionate skiers and snowboarders coming in. They get on the new stuff, and we've created which is actually really hard, but we created kind of a pretty simple kind of questionnaire survey where we can kind of extract meaningful information from people who don't review gear for a living. And so we're capturing that information, and then we're sharing that with the manufacturers. Hey, you think you built some hot new shit? Well, here's actually what the folks, where they're stating their ability levels and the rest. Like, how do we extract meaningful feedback from recreational skiers and riders? Maybe we can share that with brands, and that's kind of what we do. And then the other part of it is, so it's a long event. It's 4.5 days. So this upcoming one, it's the same kind of platform that we did last year. It's February 4th through the 8th in Crested Butte. People come in on February 4th. That's a Sunday. There's a really fun kind of welcome session and first panel session, get the lay of the land. And then we go 4 days on snow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And people can go grab whatever ski or boot they want, board they want. You can go ski with the designer from a company, the founder of a company, a pro athlete. Go do that. And then in the evening, we do a couple of panel sessions where it's kind of been something we've been trying to do at Blister for a lot of years now, but just kind of having some conversations that maybe sort of elevate the conversations that are happening in the snow sports world. And so you can check out our YouTube channel for some of every panel session we've ever done at a Blister Summit is listed there. But there's some conversations I'm really fucking proud of. We've done stuff on bindings, where we've had some of the top binding designers in the world participating in these panels. And I'm like, I don't know that I've ever seen a conversation like this really happen anywhere else, and sometimes it's really fun and hilarious panel sessions with athletes. Rory Bushfield was there last year and just won the whole summit. And so it's a mix of that. It's a really good time. We had people coming. I think last year people came from 13 different countries to the summit. People are coming from all over New England to California, from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Austria, and there's going to be more people probably from more countries this year. And I don't know, one of the last things I'll say is, we also have people coming who are not very experienced skiers and riders. We have some really good people coming, and I am extremely proud and happy to say everybody so far has had a really good time.
That's great.
I remember last year, McKenna Peterson, K2 athlete, phenomenal skier, right? I remember had been skiing with a group. I was peeling off. I saw her skiing one-on-one with a woman who was a very new skier. And it was, McKenna was taking her through moguls for, I think, the first time in her life. That's the kind of shit I love.
That's
right?
cool.
That's the kind of shit I love. And that's the kind of atmosphere we have. There is not some like the cool kids are over here and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, if you're passionate about these sports and hopefully you're a good person, because otherwise we wouldn't let you back, like come have fun and hang out in this environment. And maybe McKenna Peterson will be the first person to ever take you down a mogul run.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
And yeah, it's a surreal experience for all those guests there.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, even, you know, McKenna maybe, or like whoever, you know, you get to do this cool stuff with people who are excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Question about the panels, because
Yeah.
you know, we've done similar stuff at Ski Test, and I probably should know how the panel is kind of set
Yeah.
up, but I don't. So how does that work? Do you have like a certain amount of people every day at the end of the day talk about a certain topic? Or
Yeah. So we've done, what are we going on? I think this next summit in February will be our 4th Blister Summit. And so each year, you know, I just kind of think through some of the topics that I think would be interesting. And my objective is to kind of try to create a bit of a state of the union for snow sports. And so some of the conversations are pretty gear heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had a panel topic called Mountain Town Economics, and it was incredible. And the video's there. You can go watch it for yourself, but it was covering a bunch of the issues that are happening and solutions to a lot of the problems that are happening in mountain towns. And that had nothing to do with gear, you know? And so, yeah, it's kind of a bit on me to sort of figure out what I think are the interesting topics for this year. And then also, as we get a sense of who is coming in and who's going to be at the summit, we just do a bit of like, that's kind of my job, right?
Yeah.
Like, figure out, okay, if these athletes are going to be here, I think this would be the interesting angle. If these product designers are going to be here, I think this would be the interesting angle. And we just curate that.
cool.
And
No,
cultivate.
yeah, I was just curious because I mean that seems like a pretty rad thing, you know. And if you to come up with topics, everyone to kind of just like roll it out there and be like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Because again, we've done similar stuff, but it hasn't been, you know, it's been pretty Ski Test focused.
Yeah.
Not just like, hey, like let's go like
No.
Mountain Town or what have
Yeah.
you. So that's pretty rad.
Now, as the brands have come into like Blister Summit or anything like that, has there been any pressure from them to have anything sway their direction?
Like, say more. I don't even know what you mean. So-
Basically, them asking for a pay to play type thing. Like, yo, dude, I did this. How about you do this?
No, I think like we've been operating kind of exactly the same way for 13 years. And I think by now, the brands just know how we operate.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I'm actually kind of proud of that, because in those early days,
Yeah.
right, when we weren't just putting out the gushing review that this thing is amazing at everything, that's when I think more brands could have been like, wow, fuck you, you know?
Mhm.
And another thing I want to say, we do not in our reviews try to do these gotcha, like, I mean, I'm not a bad writer, pretty good at it. I could make hilarious total fucking takedown pieces, and
Yeah.
you'd read them and you guys would be laughing and that's hilarious and like, yeah, go get them.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what we're supposed to do. Hopefully our reviews they're in depth. Hopefully there's some funny moments or something in there, but like we are not the reviews are not entertainment. The reviews are fucking product information for people who spend a lot of money, their own money, on gear. That is what they are. It's what they were day one. It's what they are now. And I think sometimes I'll see like on a forum or something, somebody like talking about a review, like, oh, that person over there, man, they took that company apart or they killed that product. Yeah, that's how you know it's like real. And I'm like, no, the goal is accuracy. And that's the only goal.
Mm.
And if you're not accurate, fuck off. If you're an entertainment site, that's an easy way to score points. Do the takedown piece, right? Be hilarious, you know, but that's real. That's kind of our needle in our mission is accuracy. And, you know, and another thing I'm really proud of it's been really hard for 13 years, but I always said at the jump, when we did the thing, by not taking any advertising money from the gear manufacturers, that's where like all the other review outlets were making, I don't know, 90, 95% of their money. How the fuck do you keep this thing in business?
Right.
And one of the ways we do that is through our Blister membership, right? And that's how the world, I feel like, kind of should work. Like, if this is valuable information that we're providing, pay to be a member.
Sure.
And if we're not good enough, if we're not insightful enough to make that happen, then we should die. We should go away. The world doesn't need us, right?
Right.
And that's the wager we made some years ago. But now what I like, and this is still an answer to your question, it's taken me a while to get there. That's why the only way we can screw ourselves now, really, as a company, is if we aren't accurate.
Yeah.
We've applied kind of the appropriate pressure, I think. One of our reviewers, let's say somebody from brand X came to them and was like, yo, man, this is a really important new product launch for us. Here's $1,000 or $10,000. Just please say nice things about it. I couldn't fire that person fast enough, and I'd probably beat the shit out of them, right? And then be sued into oblivion. So that's how Blister will end. But now any brand coming to us and be like, say nicer things, dude, that's the end of our company. The way we've set this up, that would be the end of our company. Because if 50,000 people read that review and they then got on that ski or that bike or whatever and were like, this doesn't do remotely what those guys at Blister said it did, we just took a major credibility hit.
Totally.
And that's the only thing we are. We
Right.
aren't anything else. We are just our credibility. And what I always say is there is room for sure for reasonable disagreement about a product, reasonable disagreement. You and I might not have the exact same favorite skis, but what I believe is if you and I went and got on 30 of the same skis, we would not have radically different opinions about how is this thing carving? Which is the better carver among these skis? You know what I mean?
As far as placing them,
Yes.
goes, our favorite can be in whatever direction
That's
it wants
right.
to go, but there are wrong answers in placing them.
That's right.
And unfortunately, I don't think many other review places outside of this room understand that. And it's really unfortunate because that is what we do.
Yeah.
And accuracy, like you just said, is paramount. It's really important.
So that, back to your, let's imagine a brand comes in and is like, hey, by the way, this has happened. This happens actually a lot. And brands now, and we turn down a lot of money every year because we don't do these ad deals with a Specialized or a Trek or some of the, like we don't. And, it's nice. It's flattering. All these brands would like to do those deals with us.
Yeah.
And they're very nice about it. And the conversations are like, look, we're not trying to influence. We just want to keep you around and alive. And it's like, I fucking appreciate that. But this is the way we've set it up. And if we're not good enough to continue to work off the model that I set up from day one, I don't want to be in this business. I'll go do something else. Truly, like I don't want to be in this. I don't want to be in the fake news business.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I think I probably sound weird as fired up as I am about this, but I really love this stuff. I really love these communities. And I think it's the best. My days on snow do represent some of the best days of my life. My days in the mountains, mountain biking, trail running, skiing. And that's why I think I feel is kind of sacrosanct to me, this stuff. And I'm not going to go lie to people about this, and I'll just go do something else.
No, and that's very admirable. And I think people they see that, obviously. We see it, you read it and it's everything that you write sounds very honest. And there's a reason why you have such a big following. There's a reason why you walk into a ski shop in the middle of Boston and someone recognizes you. That says something, and it means you're doing something right, for sure.
Well, and a really cool thing is being able to sit down with people who kind of have a bit of a, we are not in the same business, but to operate from some of the same sort of principles, that feels real good. And you kind of figure out who are the people trying hard to do things the right way. Or frankly, who are some of the shops that don't actually seem to give a fuck about doing things the right way, right?
Yep, right.
And we're real clear. Like, I want those shops to go out of business. I really do. And not out of like vindictiveness, but I think there needs to be, like, we haven't really talked about our whole digital age, right? And e-commerce and the rest. We as a sport, talking about bikes, skis, snowboards, if brick and mortars go away, our sports are forever altered and are frankly worse.
Yeah.
So my big thing is we need to ensure that we are helping to drive foot traffic and dollars to the best service shops in the world. And if you're not one of those shops, we probably need you to die or be shot to cull the herd, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that the best service centers continue to get supported,
Right.
so they can continue to provide the best service in a given area. And if you're not doing that, or if you're one of these old fucking tired shop owners that stopped caring a decade or two ago, please get out of the game.
I mean, it's always been our sentiment, because we're always so frustrated that, especially here in New England, right? Because we've just been so frustrated that like so many people just they seem to just not really care anymore.
Yep.
And you go into a lot of ski stores or retail stores, ski shops, and you can just feel that, like, you know, nothing's changed here in X amount of time. Like, you're not trying to do anything to make it more fun, make it more relevant. I mean, part of the Ski Monster, you know, how we even like came to the idea of Ski Monster is like, you know, we've said this before, we'll probably say a million times more. It's like, you know, we went to a lot of ski stores, you know, when we were younger, and you're like, this is not very exciting. You know, this isn't, I don't feel excited to spend some money here. You know what I mean? You walk into a surf shop or a skate shop and you're like, yo, I'm buying some sneakers, or I'm going to buy a hat. Like, this place is sick. Walk into a ski retail store anywhere in New England for the most part, and you're like, I don't want to spend any money.
You can tell that they gave up decades ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the other thing that's happened, like for like the ski industry, especially, is back in the 50s and 60s, when a lot of these ski shops first started, that was the first gen store that realized this is why we should exist. This is exciting. We're going to make this fucking awesome. We think it's awesome. And then instead of selling to someone else, it kind of got passed down, and that person's just doing it because it's convenient, not because they really want to. Maybe they don't know what else they're supposed to do. And they're just a leech off any of the stores that are really pushing hard to add value. And it does take away revenue from all those stores because they don't really need to be there.
Yeah.
And if you're not adding value, I agree with you. Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, again, I've said this a million times. I sound like a broken record, but I don't really care. There's no reason, right? And the way that the ski industry has been around, especially in this part of the country, with the amount of population that lives here, all the racers, all the freestyle kids, everyone that has second homes up north, all the ski shops have been here, right? There's no reason that Ski Monster Boston opens in 2014 and goes from literally like begging people to come into the door from day one to us sitting in a podcast studio in our space, like the industry, like those shops, and they should have never let that happen.
Well, but you know what's bullshit is those stores that you were just talking about tried so hard to make sure that this wasn't going to happen,
right?
Because that was going to make their life harder. Oh, that means you actually have to try, or you're going to die.
Yeah. Oh, you can't
because
open
there's
them. They can't do that.
These new kids in town that actually want to make a fucking difference, and it's. I don't know. I'm going to go off on a fucking complete tangent,
but I think
it's bullshit.
We're all on the same page. It's just kind of funny if you do think about it. And it's like, there's just like, Ski Monster shouldn't have been even like in the scope of existence, in the sense of like all these stores from just in New England alone had so much time to like figure out something, you know, that could be a brand, that could be a place that like people trust and want to come and get advice from.
Takes effort though.
It takes a lot
and
of effort.
They're not willing to do that.
You know, and have a podcast and have a YouTube channel and, you know, go down the line, you know, and no one did it until 2014, which is, it's kind of wild. I'm grateful. I'm glad that nobody did it.
Yeah.
Because we're here, you know, and we're you know, doing our thing. But it's just weird to me that no one stepped up to the plate all those years.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, thinking through this conversation a bit. I mean, one, I think one of the sort of takeaways is just, it's great being around passionate people. And if you're, I spend and try to spend as close to 0% of my time around people who aren't passionate about whatever they're into, right? And it might not be exactly the same thing I'm into. That's great. I'm probably going to learn a lot from that person. But I think that especially for when we're talking about things like skiing and snowboarding and mountain biking, these are just passion areas, right? And if you're in the kind of passion business and you aren't passionate, it seems even more fucked up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like then if maybe like accounting, maybe not a passion area. So if I was an accountant and I was like, yeah, but I don't actually love accounting, we might be like, that's okay, but that pays the bills. And then that lets you go do things like ski, the thing you are passionate about.
Right.
But in the business where it's like, we are in the business where like you get to go out by yourself, get some alone time and look at beautiful mountains in the outdoors, or be out with your friends and family to have some of the best experiences of your life. If you're in that business and you burned out 10 years ago, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Cheers. I agree. 100%.
I agree. I mean,
100%.
if you're in this business and you feel flamed out, to your point, and you're not willing to push the envelope, and
If you're not adding value, go away.
try to add value to not just your own company, but to the brands that you carry and to the consumer experiences that you're assisting with, then it's time to be done.
It's time.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, how pathetic. It's like you're burned out on this, but you're sticking around because you can't think of anything else to go do.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
When did your life go so far off the rails?
Right.
Like, it's a big world out there. Like, you're passionate about nothing. You just burned out in the one passion area and nothing else is filled in. Go become a newbie in that. Like, figure it out and make it. I truly don't get it, and I kind of hate it.
Well, I mean, it's people just get stuck, you know, and then and they don't know how to kind of get themselves out, and they're like, well, I guess this is what I do, you know, which is too bad, because when you're in a business like ours, it's really just, it's based on excitement. Like, we get to talk about and sell and do fun things. Like, that's the job. And back to your point, being an accountant isn't very fun, you know, but it might pay the bills. Great. We work in ski retail. I mean, that
your job
it's fun. Like, you're talking to somebody every day about a potential best day for them.
That's right.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And like, that is not only like a privilege for someone that to be able to contribute to their excitement,
That's right.
but also it's like, dude, I want you to have the best time ever. And you're going to be like, yo, Eric from Ski Monster is the shit. Go see him, buy some fucking skis, and you're going to have a best day like me. And like, to be able to have that conversation with people all the time, it feels good.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap there, because we crushed some time, and we could probably keep talking for like another hour and a half at least. So we got some good stuff. We got some fun stuff. We got some passionate stuff. Shit was sick. Jonathan,
thank you for coming through.
thanks for coming through,
really
man.
fun.
Welcome back to Boston. And actually, what's your plan for this week? Are you over there for the whole time?
I'm
Do you have a booth or no?
no booth.
No.
Just put together a panel session tomorrow at 12:15.
Oh,
Saturday.
you're gonna talk.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so just that, and then pretty loose schedule. I'm actually tonight. Actually, in just a little bit, I'm meeting up with one of my best friends from high school.
Cool.
Who lives in Boston, and
Where you guys going?
Where are we going? He put together. Well, we're gonna end up at Trillium.
Okay, sweet.
Great.
So
Yeah.
I've actually never had Trillium beer.
It's really good.
I like my beer. I like my whiskey. I like my coffee more than anything, though. We didn't talk about coffee at all, but so Trillium, a bunch of people that I really respect their opinion about beer. They've talked about it a long time. It's my first chance to go check them out. So we're going to end up at Trillium, but I think there's going to be a bit of a walking tour.
Awesome. That whole area where Trillium is sweet. They did a great job with that building. I'm not sure if the roof will be open, but like, it's a pretty cool build out. The beer's delicious. You guys are gonna have a good time.
Okay. Yeah. And then tomorrow night, dinner with one of my best friends from undergrad. And so getting to see some dear friends.
It's a good quick little trip for you then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's, I told you, Eric, it's so cool to be back. I love cities because they are the opposite of, I love my life in Crested Butte, but I live on a tiny little mountaintop at nearly 10,000 feet. And it's wonderful, but it's the opposite of this. And every time I go into a city, like the energy of a city, I love it. And
it's contagious. It really is.
There are people getting after it and doing their thing. And you get into a proper city and it's like, you can go get some of the best coffee in the world, some of the best beer in the world, some of the best food in the world. And I'm not one of these people. I don't know that I could go, back full time into a city per se, but I love it every time I get the chance to go in. And so I'm super thrilled to be here and see what you guys have set down right in the middle of it all. So you heard me saying before we started recording, like, this spot is fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And it's really cool to finally get to be here in person and check it all out. So, and it seems like you've got a great crew here too. Been fun getting to meet some of those folks.
Yeah,
Our crew fucking rocks.
Yeah.
We got a lot of studs. Very lucky to have everybody. Everyone's awesome. All right. Yeah, let's do it. Let's wrap. Jonathan, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Good talk. And peace, y'all.